Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Pete Thamel put out a report that Andy Enfield, the head coach at USC, right down the road from where I'm sitting right now, had emerged as the favorite as the head coach. Now, we're recording here 8:36 Eastern time. As best I can tell, nothing has changed in that search. But producer Matt, why don't you pop up the second tweet? I forgot to call for the first one because it's funny. I was driving around on whatever it was, Tuesday afternoon, and I was listening to local sports talk radio, and Rodney Peete, who hosts Rogan and Rodney, 570 Fox Sports Radio in LA, they opened their show at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific. Rodney Peete, who played at USC, I believe he won a Heisman Trophy, first round pick, now hosts radio in LA. They came on with breaking news, and what Rodney Peete said was, "I'm not a newsbreaker, but I am here to tell you Andy Enfield has accepted the job. It might not be official yet. We might not know all the details yet, but Andy Enfield is set to be the next head coach at USC." Matt, you could drop that tweet. Thank you for your help there. I appreciate you. And here's the thing. I'm here to tell you it wasn't one of those, hey, I'm hearing this might be. No. They had the breaking news sound alarm, and they went hard. There was no doubt that Rodney Peete, he's not a reporter, but he is reporting it is done. What he basically said was they're trying to figure out the buyout. How much is SMU going to pay? Is USC going to lower the buyout to let Andy Enfield go? And I will tell you, if Andy Enfield goes to SMU, USC becomes a fascinating coaching job that has now become available. And the question becomes, why is that? Well, on the one hand, it just became, first of all, I think Andy Enfield gets a bad rap. He's a guy, listen, USC basketball is irrelevant, okay? He's been there 11 years. They've been to 5 NCAA tournaments. They would have had 6 if the 2020 tournament had been played. 1 year, they were the first team left out. So they basically went to 7 NCAA tournaments in 11 years, take out his first 2 years when he was rebuilding in the pre-portal era when he actually had to rebuild with freshmen. Basically, 7 of his last 9 years, they were a tournament team, okay? So I think he gets a bad rap. But why would he want to go? Well, it's because, let's do some math here. USC is a pretty good program in the Pac-12. Well, as of the end of this NCAA tournament, the Pac-12 does not exist. And so remember, USC is going to the Big Ten. And I can tell you, there is trepidation within that athletic department about going to the Big Ten and about USC basketball's ability to compete. Remember, USC does not get good crowds. They struggle to bring in fans. And so on the one hand, you now have 10 road games across the country. You have 10 road games across the country in great venues. And we make fun of the Big Ten basketball on this show, but Purdue's a tough place to play. Michigan State's a tough place to play. Indiana's a tough place to play. Wisconsin's a tough place to play. Iowa's a tough place to play. Rutgers is a tough place to play. But also keep in mind, when those teams come to LA, there's going to be more Michigan State fans at the Galen Center when Michigan State's there. There's going to be more Michigan fans when Michigan's there. There's going to be more Ohio State fans when Ohio State fans are there. And so I think that current staff kind of understands, maybe it's just time for us to do something else. Now, to the point that many of you probably want to know, if Andy Enfield officially accepts that job, and again, I'm going off a report, but it was not a report that they backed down from. The reports are that Andy Enfield has taken the SMU job, and I do wonder what happens at USC, and specifically the name that everybody wants to know. Would Arkansas head coach Eric Musselman be interested in that job? Now, by the way, I had a bunch of Kentucky fans. I hope Cal takes the USC job. Maybe they make the call. I don't see it. But I do think Eric Musselman is a legitimate candidate, and I do think that is a job that he would covet and want. Question is why? Well, first of all, he's a West Coast guy. Remember,
Where was he before he came back to college? He was a pro coach on the West Coast, head coach Sacramento Kings, head coach Golden State Warriors, was at Nevada as the head coach in his first college head coaching job. His mom still lives in the San Diego area. I remember, I think Arkansas is scheduled to play a Thanksgiving tournament in San Diego. He talked about how excited he is. He'll play in front of his mom. I think last year or 2 years ago when they played either in Vegas or San Francisco in the NCAA tournament, it was the first chance his mom got to see him coach a game. I could be making that last part up. But I think he would be interested in coming to Los Angeles to coach that program. And let me tell you this. If I was Jen Cohen, the AD, I'll be blunt. That is abso-freaking-lutely a guy that I would want as my head coach. The question, why is that? Well, what did I just say? USC men's basketball has zero juice in the city, okay? People say LA is a bad sports town. LA isn't a bad sports town, but you have to put a good and interesting and competitive product on the floor to make them interesting. Juju Watkins and USC sold out, I think, their round of 32 game at Galen Center on Monday night. USC football, we make fun of Lincoln Riley. That place was packed to the gills to start the year. But USC basketball needs some juice, and USC basketball needs someone to make them relevant in the city, and I think Eric Musselman would do that. Now, the question is, would USC hire him? That's the interesting part that I don't really have an answer to. We just talked about it with Louisville. When your job opens, or when you think your job is going to open, you have to have a list of candidates in your back pocket. You have to know who you can get and who you can't get. But USC is an interesting deal because I do think they're somewhat limited, and I think there's some names that are not going to be on their list. We talked about with Louisville a minute ago. Louisville is not going to hire anybody that has any sort of off-the-court baggage. I'm not saying Jerome Tang does. I'm not saying Eric Musselman does. But something has come up in that search where it doesn't feel like they're candidates. Well, USC has a lot of off-the-court, off-the-field stuff that has happened the last couple of years at that school. Remember, this was the place that was part of the FBI college basketball recruiting scandal. Whatever. Don't care. Couple kids got a couple $100. I don't care. But it doesn't change the fact they were part of it. Remember, the admissions scandal. Remember Aunt Becky? Remember Aunt Becky was moving mountains to get her daughter into school there? Oh, by the way, don't forget, the previous AD at USC got fired for what was essentially alleged, and I think the investigation is still going on. So you heard what I said, alleged sexual harassment. I'm talking about Mike Bone, the guy that came from Cincinnati, the guy who hired Lincoln Riley. And so USC has been very careful in who they've hired in their head coaching, past. Remember, there were reports that Urban Meyer wanted that football job. And Carol Folt, who's the school president, basically said from the beginning, there is no way, no how we are hiring Urban Meyer as our head football coach. Now, Urban Meyer had some real baggage. I mean, we're talking about, we know how it ended at Ohio State. We know about the off-the-field issues at Florida. And Coach Muss, to his credit, there's nothing off the court that would concern you. But we know he's a demanding, and I love Coach Muss, okay? Let me make that clear. Been great to me. He's a great coach. I would hire him in a heartbeat. I think Arkansas made one of the great hires of the last 10 years hiring that guy. And oh, by the way, guy made 3 Sweet 16s, 2 Elite 8s at Arkansas. Like, unless something crazy happens, he's going to have more wins in the NCAA tournament than any other SEC team in the last 4 or 5 years this year. So anyway, I'm going on and on. The only point I'm trying to make, he's a demanding coach, demands excellence, demands everything. And I don't know if that personality, I would hire him. I'm just saying. But I don't know if that personality would jive with the administration that's there. Jen Cohen, remember, is the new AD. She came from Washington. She hired Kalen DeBoer at Washington. She has not made a major hire at USC. So I don't know what her thought process is. Again, Carol Folt, the school president, she's more hesitant. She's not going to just make the first big hire, whatever. So I bring it up. I do believe that Eric Musselman would be interested in that job if it were available. I don't know if USC would be interested. I think they should be, but it'd be fascinating to see who they get. And I'll tell you this, whoever gets that job, if Andy Enfield leaves, is going to have their work cut out for them because it is not going to be an easy place to win.